next session, we're going to witness an education session. So if somebody speaks about him, I always remember the signboard. Everyone knows he's an athlete. But what is the connect? The person whom I am referring to can speak so many words within a minute, which is equivalent to Usain Bolt's record. A person from a place famous for M.A. Parota. So I like to call Toastmasters Shyamraj. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So how are you?
Fine.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Like every time that I go in front of a crowd and ask this question, I've quoted this many a times. I ask this question, how are you? And I receive this answer, fine, and everywhere. In fact, the word fine in English carries two meanings, right? One is, yes, I'm doing good. The other meaning for the word fine is? Penalty. So I go to the friend and ask, how are you? And everyone says, fine. I understand I shouldn't be asking that question here. Right? So whenever you're going to make it fine, let us make it in full. I'm fine. Right? Glad friends. I mean, it's a real pleasure traveling to Chennai for education sessions or maybe taking up education sessions. Thank you so much for the invitation that you have offered me. In fact, as I was talking to Mr. Kalyan, the understanding was we are planning to fine-tune our ISE script. Is that the understanding that I should have as I commence my session? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you attended Emergence? Okay. Sorry guys, I'm going to bore you. Right? The other guys, I'm definitely going to bore you. There is no doubt, there is no difference. Now, as we proceed, how many of you have prepared your ISE script already? Okay. Okay. How many of you intend to participate in the ISE contest? Oh, fantastic. Alright, in that case, like assuming that a few of us are still in the process of scripting our speech, let us take it from point zero, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, whenever we talk about ISE, it is the first 90 seconds that I always talk about, my dear friends. In fact, when do you think your contest actually begins? When do you think your audience has started listening to you?
After 1 minute.
After 1 minute they listen to us. Okay, brilliant answer. Are there any other answers?
When the topic is announced.
When your name is announced, maybe when your topic is announced. Any other answer?
The introduction is powerful.
Okay, when my introduction is popular, people have started listening to me. Okay, let us first take this understanding, friends. There is a key, very thick line of difference between talking, speaking and contesting. Yes? Like when I talk to a person, the other person also has something to discuss with me. So there is a basic interest lying in the conversation. But when I come to speak, I'm here to prove my wits. And there is an audience ready to listen to me. Thereby, I will need to, in a way, amplify my public speaking traits and slowly thrust my message into the hearts of people. Now, there is one more shift as you get into contest. It's not only in carrying the message to the hearts of people, it's to carry it in such a way that my message stays in his heart even after the lot number 10 has completed the speech. Like there are 9 other messages for the day, let my message stay there. So it's not only the public speaking traits, there are some unique qualities that we may need to build. Right? So now let us talk. When does your speech actually begin? When you script? Like when do the audience actually listen to you? Like maybe let's make it this way. You have the club contest fixed on February 19. And everybody knows who the contestants are. And everyone who enters the door is being listened to. The moment you step into the hall, maybe your confidence is red, maybe your nervousness is red, maybe people know your topic and they have started predicting what you're going to talk today. The moment prediction starts, evaluation has already started. They know what you're going to do today on the stage. What's the first word that this person is going to utter? And thereby, the first 90 seconds is meant to break that. Like only when you break that, the remaining time, maybe consider the time from this 1.5 minute till the 7th minute. That's the time that you play. Maybe the first 90 seconds, distract them, take them away from that prediction. Have them in this stage of unpredictability. So there are 3 major things like last week in Emergence, Shasta was mentioning. There have been some weird props used in ISE finals. Some of them a cigarette, like recently an underwear, and even before that it was the rose that was used by Dhananjaya. If you look at all these props, did you notice that all of them were introduced in the first 90 seconds? They all fill in the first 90 seconds of the speech so that your attention was on the prop. Your attention was on something else and not on the topic. They were taking you with them. They were holding hands with you. So number one, you can use a visual aid, you can use a prop, introduce the prop to people in the first 90 seconds. Point number one. Number two, I once listened to a speaker. He went onto the stage. He had a kerchief. It was white in color. He went to the stage, he had it here. He did something, it turned colorful. And he said, wonders are everywhere, and went ahead. Like the moment he lifted his kerchief, we were all looking at it and we did not think about his topic that was connected with wonder. But then he slowly took us into it. So this stage is so important. And the final trick that you can always apply, apart from introducing the prop, apart from having a trick, is one of the toughest things that we always believe: humor. Humor. Humor helps you from insulating your speech and the topic. Maybe insulating the rest of your speech and the title. Yes? In fact, whenever we talk about humor, this question runs in our mind, right? People may not laugh for my jokes. Yes? Do we have this idea? Like, will people laugh for my jokes? I have this doubt. If yes, raise your hand. Okay, good. In fact, we should be having this doubt. These people who have raised your hand, tell me if this is the reason for you to have this belief. You guys once drafted a joke, tried it on one single friend. That single friend was so cruel and he did not laugh. Yes? And that's when you quit this idea. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. A quick question to you. I do not know if I played that video last time. Badivelu, Sandhanam, think of the best comedy of in their movies. Think of any joke that you love the most of them. Think of how you watched it on the screen. You went to the theater, you looked at the movie, you observed that scene. How did the theater react? Like you saw everyone jumping on the seats, you saw everyone applauding, you saw everyone shouting, yelling, and you were also in the team. Yes? So you were doing that. Now just imagine when the same scene was played in the television in your living room. You were the only person listening to that scene. You were the only person listening to that joke. Were you on the seat? Were you clapping? Were you applauding? You were not doing anything. Okay, you were just sitting. Good joke. Good one. The next one. So maybe when you were sitting in a crowd, your level of understanding was different. The way you received the joke was different. When you become an individual, the reception goes down. Maybe you do not appreciate it much. And that individual cruel friend was doing that. Put him in a crowd, check how the response is. And you do this checking during a CCs, and let me tell you, anything that you believed wants to be a joke will definitely work with the crowd. That's the belief that I would like to give you. Yeah.
When you like the humor, you just laugh at it. When it comes out, it is not 100%.
Doubt takes position, sir. Doubt takes position. See, when you speak, there is 50-50 attention. 50% of your attention towards the script, 50% of the attention towards audience. But the real problem is when we try with the humor, 70% of attention towards the audience. Even before you complete the joke, even before you crack the real joke, you start checking if people would really laugh. And when you raise this doubt, the joke becomes mechanical. You do not give the real pass, you do not give the real stress. So for example, in my case, I presented a speech on my weakness in mathematics. Once it was like 1 year ago. I was very poor in mathematics and the speech went in this flow. When I was in my first standard, my maths teacher asked me to recite numbers in order. My uncle had once taught that to me. So I started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great, continue, she said. I smiled and continued. Jack, Queen, King, Ace. You understand? Like maybe the laughter that you found here, if at all I had had a doubt if this would really work, I would have sounded so mechanical. I wouldn't have had the stress at the right point. Like that's more important. Like you find in certain cases, right? The question paper says, prove that a plus b the whole square is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. Like when I see this in the question paper, I feel, I never said a plus b the whole square is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. Why should I prove that? You understand? Like, maybe if I had a doubt on this humor, I wouldn't have had this stress at the right place, and it may not have worked. So it's more important that you forget the audience and only have your confidence on the content. You only think about the joke when you deliver the joke. In fact, who are good writers, friends? Who are good writers? Good readers or good writers? Who are good speakers? Good listeners or good speakers? Then who are good humorous speakers? Who laugh, who enjoy humor, can create humor. If you had enjoyed the joke in you, you can create that joke in front of a crowd. So definitely that should have worked only because you had that doubt. You were thinking about the audience, somewhere it went mechanical. Like, have you seen this like in some humorous speech contest? A person would have sounded so good at the club level, he would have won the contest. He goes to the area level, won it. At the division level, some of the jokes that really worked did not receive the applause there. Have you noticed that very clearly? That's simply because of this doubt. It's a quality joke. It definitely should have worked. The doubt that raises in the mind of the person reflects there. Got that? Yes, friends. So shall we get back to the topic? The first 90 seconds that I was talking about. It's like introducing the prop, or maybe a magical trick, or your humor. As you proceed, or shall we have a small sample for this, how this effect works? Can I give you a sample from my speech last year? What I did for this first 90 seconds, I again relied on humor. I knew no magic. I had a prop, but I did not use it in the first 90 seconds. I'll tell you how it went. My topic was when the first impression fails. When the first impression fails. This was the topic. In fact, my content was built in such a style, like we had a friend presenting a CC4 today. He said first impression doesn't matter, right? That was my content. I said if you fail in your first impression, you have a second impression. If you fail in the second impression, you have a third impression. That was the crux, that was the message. So I started my speech this way. The first 90 seconds, it went this way. Good morning. Good afternoon. That was exactly how I fumbled and failed in my first stage at the age of 8. When I failed, my coach, who was standing behind the screen, immediately said, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen." I saw him and immediately said, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen." When you are on your first stage, your brain works exactly like a 5-year-old kid. Let me explain this to you. During last Diwali, I was using a candle to light a color matchstick and I was playing with it. Looking at me, my 5-year-old neighbor used the same candle to light an atom bomb and was playing with it. I saw him and shouted immediately, "Throw it away!" He threw the candle away. Your brain works the same way when you are on your first stage. In my first stage, I was expected to act as Brutus, kill Caesar, and present a talk to the Romans. I took out my dagger, killed a minister instead of Caesar, and I was talking about Caesar to Caesar. And the boy who was acting as Caesar knew that he should be dead for that scene. Not knowing what to do, he took out his dagger, killed himself. Like, point number one, maybe some of you here, I have presented this at least twice or thrice. I should have raised a doubt if those people would react to my joke. If that had come to my mind, that response wouldn't have been earned. Number one, the answer to that question. Number two, what is my topic? Were you thinking of that topic when I talked? You were only enjoying the humor. You were only coming with me. And that's my success. You know what I did after that? Immediately after the scene was over, I said, on that day, I failed in my first impression and I was kicked out of my school speakers forum. First impression failed. And then I introduced a prop, I went ahead. You get that? Yes, this insulation. Maybe people are with you when laughter happens, when wonders happen, when a prop is introduced. Now let's talk about what should be happening after that. The content part. There are only a very few suggestions that I would like to give you when it comes to the content part. Make it universal. Make it universal. Why should it be universal? We have a wonderful friend from Sri Lanka who can explain that to us. In my case, in ISC 2015, that was the first time I represented the division at the district level for ISC. My speech title was Get Lost. Speech title was Get Lost. In fact, the result was the same. You know what happened? The introducer introduced me, calling me Usain Bolt. Yes, that was for the rate of my speed. I had it at its peak in the year 2015. Even then, my strategy was the same. First 90 seconds humor. The remaining part, the message. I went to the stage at Colombo, Sri Lanka. I presented the first 90 seconds. Everyone was seriously looking at me, as if I was giving the message of my life then. No response. I tried more of body language, nothing happened. And later when I entered the serious part, there were a few people laughing here and there. I don't know why. Like, you understand, like, when you get this universal audience, people don't get you. People don't understand if your accent differs. If your accent is going to be different, you need to be slow for them to catch every phrase of yours. Like, learning this lesson, the next time when I went to Sri Lanka for the humorous speech contest, at the district level, I was very cautious. I decided I should not make the same mistake. They had the fun night the day before the contest. I pulled out some empathetic Sri Lankans from the fun night. I took 4 or 5 of them. I placed them in a chair and said, see, now I'm going to speak. I don't want you guys to laugh. That's not required. Just tell me if you really understand it or not. That's okay. That's enough for me. So those guys were seated. It was this speech on my weakness on mathematics. They listened to the entire speech and finally they said that was a wonderful speech, bro. I really liked it so much. It was all good. There was only one thing that I did not understand. What was that you were saying in between? Mass. What's that? Like that. This is the real crux of the speech, right? That is the real subject of the speech. What if they did not understand mass? And later I understood, like in Sri Lanka, they pronounce it mats. When you say mats, they understand it better. And you say mass, they wonder what it is.
The actual pronunciation is math.
Math.
No,
Yes, of course. Not math. So, just because we talked about this, it's very important, like in an international forum like us, that the grammar is taken care, pronunciation is taken care, everything is taken care. But the way Shakespeare is granted a few mistakes, the way a few poets are granted mistakes, it's important that we go for certain areas, keeping the audience response on top and sadly taking language to the second position. I'll tell you where this happens. In fact, this was coming next. In your ISE speeches, the sentences shouldn't be more than 7 words long. Let not your sentences be long. Like, I cannot keep listening to your sentences. In that case, maybe the suggestion would be like this. You have a sentence. Do you think every time only the first impression wins? If this is your question, cut the do you there. Or cut the do there. You think the first impression wins every time? Done. You think the first impression wins every time is not a question. But I post it as if it is a question. And that is permitted just because you need to impress the audience on that line. Maybe a little bit of lethargy, but what I committed in case of mass is a very big crime, sir. That's wrong. I understand. So that was the case at Candy. So I received this as a point. Not only this, I also received one more thing that I never forget it. There was a part in my speech where I was talking about my maths teacher beating me, punishing me with a scale, wooden scale. That was in my script. The people were quoting that. They said, what, your maths teachers beat you with a scale? Like, my shock was not that they did not understand my joke. My shock was their maths teachers don't beat them with a wooden scale. Like, later they explained, like, a scale is always used for measurements. You cannot use it like this. They said, and finally he said, like, you shouldn't be using such an instrument that way. We use steel rods to punish children. Like, that is how it goes. The difference is, we say a plus b the whole square is equal to, they say a plus b the whole thing square is. So, like, you give only 2 seconds for people to grasp that word or a phrase, that is not sufficient. You say a plus b the whole square, what is the difference between a plus b the whole square and a plus b the whole thing square? That means a lot. If they don't understand that word, if they do not understand that phrase, the entire joke is gone. If the entire joke is gone, that paragraph is gone. If that paragraph is gone, the next speaker takes advantage. You get that? So every word and every sentence stands more important. So when it comes to the content part, think universal. Like, maybe everyone in the audience, maybe we have friends from somewhere, at times everyone should be able to understand. Now as we move towards the conclusion, what is it that we really look for? There is a common misconception thinking that I should be summarizing my speech at the conclusion. No, you do not summarize your speech. You highlight your speech at the end. In fact, you can bring in a new idea. You can bring in a new small anecdote at the end and still highlight your message. See, in my case, when I was talking about the speech on impressions, I had a few anecdotes. The speech was over. All that it required was over. But in the conclusion, I had 4 lines. These 4 lines were not explained before. These 4 lines were introduced newly. This idea was introduced newly. I said, the first impression is not everything. The first impression is only the best illusion, not the best impression. And I said, if you want to know the power of the second impression, talk to Mark Antony of Shakespeare. If you want to know the power of the 13th impression, talk to Abraham Lincoln. If you want to know the power of the 1000th impression, talk to Thomas Alva Edison. If you want to know the power of still trying and not being able to create the best impression yet, talk to him, the Almighty. He still has not created a perfect man in this world. This was how I concluded. Maybe for the flow I had, for the way I carried that message, this sounded to be a safe landing, highlighting the message. But this was quoted nowhere. No Abraham Lincoln, no Einstein, nobody came in the initial parts of my speech. I can take it forward this way. Alright. Now quickly to those friends who have already scripted your speech, here is a quick message. May I know if you first sat in front of your computer, drafted the speech, and then went for checking what kind of body language will work for every sentence? Is that the way we do, friends? You first concentrate on the content, you draft everything, then when you practice it, when you by heart it, you work out on the body language, and finally then you think about the voice modulation? Yes, that is how we usually do, right? Here is the question. I believe everyone remembers this sentence. At times, I wake up my beautiful wife at midnight and ask this question, honey, why did you marry me? She said, I don't know. I saw something in you. I still don't know what it is. You remember this, right?